So I always kind of like the way that I paint or the way that I play music. I always like having everything in my life neatly organized. That is to say, my art career. Don't walk into my garage. But everything in my art career is very neatly organized. And here's the reason. If I sit down to play the piano and as I'm reaching for a note, if that note has suddenly moved, and I have to look for it, it's going to wreck the whole entire composition, right? It's going to wreck the piece. It's much the same with drawing, where every time I go to reach for a pencil, I want it to be in the same place. I don't want to have to fish around for something every single time that I sit down. So having my 10H's here, having my F pencil here, having my 10B here, if I have a feeling like I want something darkish, I just reach for this end, and there we go. I have a dark pencil. So I can actually shut down the part of my brain that really thinks in terms of the left side of my brain that's exacting and is looking for the specific thing. And I can actually feel when I work. And one of my favorite art instructors, Robert Beverly Hale, he taught at the Art Students League, I believe all the way clear up until the 1960s. What he said was, the whole goal of art education is to render to the subconscious what was once conscious. I believe that. I believe you want to take the conscious thought in the act of creation and you want to devote it entirely towards what it is that you care about, and you want that subconscious thought to take care of all the other things. So dark over here, light over there, mid-tone right here. So now let's start out with the lightest, the gradation from lightest to dark. I'm going to, for this, grab an automatic pencil that can write quite easily. And I'm going to just put over here 10H. I'm going to put over here 10B. Then right in the middle is F. And F allows me to place what I call year 0. Year 0, pretend that this right now is year 0, and this is, I don't know, 5,000 BC or 10,000 BC. There's no such thing, kind of. And this right here is, let's just say 10,000 AD. So pretty much the reason why I'm saying this is to say that it's nice to know the polar ends of what it is that we're working on. It's nice to know the middle. So as I look at my pencils right here, F is the middle pencil. So I go 10H, 9H, and let's just fast forward this here so you don't have to see me doing this. Okay, there we have it, 10H to 10B, and our year 0, let's put a little symbol around it to make sure that we remember that this is year 0. There we have it. So now let's do a quick experiment. I'm going to do a full range of 10H to 10B, applying the same pressure to each pencil. Now here's what's important to remember. Here is a 10H pencil right here. Let's place that right there. Okay, it's going to roll off my table, so I'll hold on to it. 10H pencil right here. This is a 10B pencil right here. So 10H pencil, 10B. Look at the difference in the lead. This lead is much harder, and the hardness of that lead means that the value that's produced by that lead is much, much fainter. This is a very soft lead, and so it just goes right into the weave. Paper doesn't have a weave, but I call it a weave. It's the peaks and the valleys of the paper, and the 10B goes right into that. So let's take the 10H pencil and just do a tiny little swatch over here. And let's take the 10B and let's do a little swatch right over here. So now I'm applying the same pressure, but it's very worthwhile for you to see the difference in those values. I mean, you couldn't get further, right? That's the furthest that we can go. I actually don't know of a company that makes a lighter and a darker pencil than Mitsubishi with their high uni pencils. So now I'm going to jump over to my H. And my H right in the middle, as it should be. So you may ask, why is it that we have to go with a Mitsubishi Hayuni pencil? Why don't we use some of the other brands? The thing that I'll tell you is this: other brands of graphite have a lot of excess and grit in them. And by excess and grit, I mean that the content of the graphite is compromised, and it feels like there's little pieces of sand in there. So now let's do a gradation all the way from 10H to 10B. I'm going to speed this up so that I don't bore the life out of you guys, but you can watch me as I pull out each pencil and just put that gradation in. And 10B, and I'm just going to strengthen that so I'm sure that I'm using the same pressure. So just take a look at that and see that gradation range and think to yourself. I would actually think about when, in what circumstances would you like to use which pencil. So if I was painting a child and he's sitting beside the window and light is hitting his face, and I want to show those subtle gradations on their cheek of their face and just how just delicate those subtle transitions are, I probably would be floating around in this range right here. Very, very soft, delicate transitions. Now, if I'm working on the same subject and the child is sitting beside the window, and on the far side, away from the window, you can see, let's say, the shadow or the dark value that would be in the ear, in some of the areas of the ear that will be, areas that are cavities, and you're going to be more in this range right over here. You can push a 10H pencil to be as dark as you possibly can make it, but your 10H pencil will never, in its darkest, greatest pressure, will never approach the value of an F. And an F, no matter how hard you push it, will never approach the value of a 10B. But there's more to talk about than just simply talking about the the darkness and the lightness of a pencil. So let's go with 5H and 5B. 5H is a favorite pencil of mine, and I know it sounds funny to say that, but it is, because what I like about 5H is that 5H has this crisp kind of calligraphic quality. Like I just love the way that it leaves this really sharp, smart line, and when you place pressure down and you pull away, it has this nice taper. I like that about this pencil. Now, a 5B is a totally different thing altogether. A 5B, when I use the same pressure, it's much more smoky and atmospheric, but I like this pencil just as much because it has this soft atmospheric way of gliding across the paper. And if you think of paper as being a series of peaks and valleys, the pencil, when you drag it this way, it's only clipping the tops of those peaks. It's not going into the valleys. And so it creates this very smoky, wonderful atmospheric quality. This creates this nice, crisp kind of quality. And when you put it on its side, I don't love that. It's not useless to me, but it doesn't have the same smoky atmospheric quality. So different pencils for different purposes. I should put them over here. So now let's use an example. So if this over here is a 5H pencil, 5H over here, and if this is a 5B over here, when do you use them? Well, let's say you're trying to draw somebody in profile. And so let's say somebody has a really interesting, unique profile. And so if you want to look at some really beautiful and interesting profile drawings, Google Leonardo da Vinci and take a look at some of his fantastic drawings of old men in profile. So now, if I'm drawing somebody's profile, chances are I want to really pull out the linear aspect of their face. Just like that. And so a 5H pencil is a perfect pencil to pull out the linear aspect of their face. And so that line right here, you really couldn't duplicate it so well with a 5B pencil. The 5H is the go-to pencil for something that's linear of that nature. So now let's say I now want to put into this drawing a little bit of shade, okay? So I have my 5H pencil. I can really lean on that pencil and I can get some shade and it will be fine. But let's say the light is coming really strong, it's a sunny day, and there's some deep dark shadows going on on the lower planes, the planes that are turned away from the sunlight. The 5B pencil is going to get me there quick. And also the way that a 5B pencil will leave kind of like this atmospheric, smoky quality, shadows have transitions, and as shadows transition from dark to light, those transitions, if they're too abrupt and too harsh and linear, can just read as being false. They can just simply read as not being correct. Whereas a soft pencil, such as a 5B, can give you this nice, smoky, atmospheric quality that it feels true to the form which you're conveying. So now let's also experiment with this, where if you use your finger a little bit, you can blend a softer pencil, such as a 5B graphite. A softer pencil will blend much more easily. These lines don't blend that easily. These lines do blend easily. So some artists, they're fond of saying, and I heard this when I was younger, that you should never blend with your finger. And to that, I would say that is baloney. Just don't blend to cover your mistakes. You don't want to blend a soft area just to hide the fact that you don't know what you're doing there. But if you do blend purposefully, then blending is very useful. There are a number of Russian artists who I deeply admire, contemporary Russian artists, and they have a long tradition of drawing that is unbroken. They didn't have modernism come in and kind of reinvent the craftsmanship, let's say, of drawing and painting, but they have more of an unbroken tradition. And the Russian artists use their fingers in their drawings to great extent. Why am I saying this? Because as you're working with a 5B pencil, you sometimes will take advantage of that quality of the 5B pencil, and you'll use it in your pieces. So one exercise that I would suggest is just walking around your house and experimenting, looking at different objects and seeing how the different pencil gradation range, how that gradation range can be used best for different purposes. The softer pencils, let me jump over to, let's say, an 8B. So the softer pencils can be used for really atmospheric lay-ins. And when you want to put in the subject in a very atmospheric way, this pencil right here is the pencil that you want to go to. You don't want to go necessarily for a very hard 5H pencil, but an 8B pencil, if you're laying in quickly and with kind of this nebulous quality, 5 and 8B is going to be perfect for you right here. And so again, just walk around your house and look at different objects and say, well, I want to try to exploit the best qualities of an 8B pencil. And so I'm going to play around with that 8B pencil for a cup sitting on a saucer, and I'm going to see how this glides over the paper. I'm making my sketches really quick and hasty, just so that I can illustrate a point. And then you might want to jump over, and with that pencil, you might want to do a sketch of, well, we have our profile right here, but you might want to do somewhat of an architectural rendering where you have a box of cereal and you're really trying to get the accurate perspective. And let's say that the box is opened up a little bit like this, and the other flap is going this way, and there's a crinkly bag coming out on top of it, and here's the label. Well, this is your pencil if you're trying to get the side of a box of food or something like that. This pencil is schematic, and it can lay things out in a crisp way that's just perfect. And then also with directional shading, pencils such as 5H can give you directional shading with real crisp precision, and it really leaves its directional lines are never obscured. So just like that. So I would suggest filling up a whole page, do a full swatch of the lightest pencil to the darkest pencil. If you say, well, my set only goes to 4H and 4B, that's fine, because that's the piano that you've been given. Regardless as being an 8-octave piano right here, if your piano only has 5 octaves, well then go ahead and use 5 octaves. And again, the lessons that there's no way in one lesson that we could ever talk about all the uses of these pencils, because at a later point as you're drawing, you'll find that there are entirely new uses of a 10H pencil that you never would have fathomed before, that you could bring into a piece, but I could never pass along all those nuggets of information in just one sitting. So we're just going to jump in with this study, and I encourage you to be creative. Find a few objects. If the object that you're working with is really ill-suited, the pencil that you're working with is really ill-suited for the object, then switch over and try a new one.